So, what is going on in politics in Israel today? Great question. So, first of all, a quick update on what happened last week. As you all know, elections were held at the beginning of the month, and there has been a total stalemate, whereas Netanyahu and the right wing bloc had 58 seats, more than any of the others, but not enough to have that necessary majority of 61 seats. On the other side, we had the Jewish or Zionist, more center or left wing parties. And then we have 15 seats of the Arab parties. Now, with the 15 seats of the Arab parties, the left wing had 61 seats and therefore could command a majority of the Knesset. But there's a tremendous amount of hesitation among most of the left wing parties of the members of Knesset in actually putting together a coalition or any kind of an agreement with the Arab party. Not because they're Arab. There are Arab parties and some of the Arab members of Knesset and have been Arab members of Knesset in the past in many of the parties, but this particular Arab party includes within it people who support terrorism, people who are very hostile to Jews in general, and the party as a whole is anti-Zionist and doesn't believe that Israel should be the homeland of the Jewish people. So it's quite difficult and problematic to cooperate with that party. Even so, Gantz and some of the others in that party seemed willing to cooperate, at the very least, in order to force Netanyahu out of office. In a very surprise move last week, at the end of last week, Gantz decided, seemingly because he saw, as a result of surveys that had been taken in the previous day or so, that there was enormous opposition among his electorate to this idea of him joining up with such an anti-Zionist Arab party. And therefore, he split his own party. And his party itself, Blue and White, is actually a conglomerate of 3 different parties. He, as the head of one of those parties, did a deal, or was in the process of doing a deal with Netanyahu, and reached a basic agreement that he and Netanyahu would take turns being prime minister. Netanyahu would be prime minister for the first year and a half, which is quite an enormous concession on the part of Gantz. Gantz would then take over a year and a half later. The rest of the details have not been worked out, and they are now negotiating. On our perspective, from the perspective of the right wing, we have a number of concerns. First of all, Likud, the largest party in the right wing bloc with 35 seats, I believe, certainly is the most powerful. Netanyahu is the candidate for prime minister. However, a party like Yamina, with only 7 seats, is very, very important party from the point of view of the ideological right. This is the party that is most supportive of the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria. And although the Likud supports these same ideological positions, very often Netanyahu has demonstrated in the past his willingness to compromise on some of these issues that for us and people in Yamina should not be compromised on. The other parties in this right-wing bloc are the ultra-Orthodox parties, who tend to support our position as well with regard to Judea and Samaria, but are far more willing to compromise on them than we are. Today, there are a number of issues that remain in dispute, and it is not at all clear how they will be worked out. Rumors, and it's all rumors. Rumors have come forward initially that Netanyahu had already agreed that Gantz would have, or Gantz's party would have both the defense portfolio and the justice portfolio. If both of these portfolios are in the hands of Gantz, it is definitely a real threat on the future of Judea and Samaria and on our ability to move forward on the Trump plan and actually extend sovereignty over the communities in Judea and Samaria. It is these 2 offices that are most involved in these sorts of issues, and if they are both in the hands of the Blue and White or Gantz's party, that is truly problematic. Rumors also have it that Netanyahu is insisting that one of the principal of this government will include extending sovereignty over the communities in Judea and Samaria. This is something that Gantz at this point is not willing to agree to. So these are issues that are very much up in the air, and it is totally unclear what this government will look like, if it will actually go forward. Another issue is the position of Yamina and the very, very talented ministers, particularly Naftali Bennett and Ayelet Shaked. These two people have traditionally been among the least favored people of Netanyahu for primarily personal reasons, which is very unfair and unprofessional. We are hoping that Netanyahu is able to overcome those prejudices, particularly since Bennett and Shaked were both very, very loyal and instrumental in delivering such a wonderful victory to the right wing this time, much more than they had last time. So these are issues that we're waiting to see, and we hope they will be resolved favorably. Of course, all of this is taking place against the backdrop of the coronavirus crisis, and so the government at the same time is handling a lot of very, very urgent issues having to do with public health, management of the hospitals and of the crisis. So it is definitely challenging times all round. It is really important, though, that at the end of the day, we have a right-wing government, or at least a right-wing government on these issues that are of greatest importance to us. I think the country as a whole, both right and left, are very supportive of this idea of Gantz joining with Netanyahu, because none of us had the stomach for another election, and we needed to move on. We needed to break the stalemate and move on towards an effective, long-lasting government. We all would have wished, at least on the right, we would have wished that we would have attained 61 seats, but because we didn't, we have to move forward with other options. However, I would be much happier if Gantz were given control over things that are in national consensus and leave some of these very important issues to the right, such as the future of Judea and Samaria, leave those in the purview of the right-wing parties. Anyway, that's the update for today, and I will continue to update as developments happen. Have a great day, great evening. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.